Hi, I'm Kim,
I'm Torah.
and this is Parenting Young Adults with Kimm and Torra. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today. So, Torah, we have a number of topics we wanted to address today, but before we do, I wanted to circle back to our conversation about the Little Nas X video
hmm
that we
hmm
had last week.
Were you able
I
to
did,
watch it entirely?
oh, absolutely not. I mean, did you watch it?
Actually, I've seen even more clippings because I'm on social media, so people are posting more pop-ups of the video.
Oh no, I didn't watch it. I never intended to watch it. Well, what I did do was talk to my son and my daughter about it. And as I suspected, neither one of them had watched it. Even now, neither one of them has really watched it. My son said
Wow.
something like, I haven't really seen it, but I hear it's supposed to be controversial. Now, I have to say, I talked to him today and I
Mhm,
didn't say, oh, have you seen it anymore yet? But I actually, my daughter gave me the same response. I've seen some clips, but I haven't really seen it. And
mhm.
then when I talked to her, um, I asked what her generation was saying. And she said, oh, you know how this generation is. They don't really care. And
Yep.
I said that Victoria, your daughter, said
Mhm.
that Lil Nas X was living his best life. She said, yeah, people are saying that all on social media.
Mhm.
And that her position was that he was making a statement that
Mhm.
if being gay is a sin, then he's willing to go to hell.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then
Uh,
today, or yesterday, today, earlier today, I watched this young lady that I like to watch, and she is into African spirituality and all things spiritual. And she's younger too. She's between us. She's younger than us, but she's just a little, maybe 8 years older than our daughters, maybe, right in that 30. I want to say she has to be maybe mid 30s. And she had a similar opinion. She had watched the entire video. She loves the video, loves the artistic
in her 30s and love
values.
video.
Okay, let's say maybe late 20s. She's
Oh,
younger, but she's
wow.
still a grown up. She
Okay.
works,
Okay.
all of that.
Mhm.
And she loves the artistic value of it. She has watched it. She went through this whole thing about, and see, I haven't watched it, but how in the
Mhm.
beginning, she talked about the two biblical, there's supposedly two creation stories, one
Yeah.
with
Okay.
Adam
I
and
did read
Lilith
about
and
that.
one with Adam
Mhm.
and Eve. And she
Yep.
said that she thought Lil Nas X invoked the Adam and Lilith story and put himself more in the space of being Lilith, and then
Okay.
talked about how he flew up to heaven, then
Okay.
went to Eden, then took the stripper pole. I mean, she just went through
Yeah.
a whole series of things, and she found that the horns were representative of Lilith as opposed to Satan. And so that he had broken them off of Lilith and put them on himself as a sign of rebellion because it's all about LGBT. And I was like, wow. So
Right.
these younger generations clearly have an entirely different view of that
Entirely.
video than the one that
Do you
that
think
I
that it's
took.
because they have gotten away from the church, the religion, the God that we grew to know, to love and respect and honor because that was our guiding light? Do you think that's maybe why they're so free spirited? Because I know that my generations was knocking on the door. I know I saw it coming. Like I said, with the Madonna videos, and Madonna pushed she
She
let
did
everyone
push the
know she
envelope.
was out Catholic, but I
She
mean,
pushed
she's a
the
lot of other
envelope.
different things now, but
And then I went back and thought about right after our conversation, all those memories, excuse me, of the Donna Summers video
oh
start
yeah.
coming into my mind and
hmm
all the moaning and groaning and panting. And at that time, I was a teenager.
I was too.
And it was a bit much for me. I mean, because I was a teenager, it wasn't like I was going to go on a march or a rampage about it, but it was like, man, this is a lot.
And our parents didn't play it around us because it was so racy. It was one of those things. If we
It was a
stumbled
lot.
across it,
It was a
we
lot. And then when I thought about it, I have to realize that that led us right to the Cardi B song. That was the starting point that got us all the way down, because in my mind it's down to where we are now. But then I had to think about your question. So am I being our parents or even our
oh yeah.
grandparents and saying, and coming down on the side of it goes too far, whereas the younger generations are like, this is just a natural evolution of music.
And for me, I think I just think for me that's the right thing to do for us to be our parents at some point. I think that shows our growth. I think it also shows the fact that we don't want the world to go too far, because if you don't have any control, we can't even imagine how it could turn out. And I'm not saying that, not pushing buttons and not moving forward. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it does come a point in time where we are not supposed to be so willing. We can be a little appalled by the new generation, because it's showing us that we've grown. Even
Mhm.
that's too much for us.
Mhm.
That's what I feel like. I feel comfortable saying, oh, I know that they have music that far passes ours now, but I'm quite sure my grandmother had her era, my mother had her era, now I'm having mine. And I'm definitely accepting of lots of their new generation style, the clothing, the music, the visuals. I'm accepting, and I have to be, because I don't want to be on the outside looking in. That's the only reason. Other than that, I wouldn't like it. I don't want them to be hermits, and I don't want them to not know about life, but I don't like it. I don't like the way this generation is going. I think it's too much, too fast, too far.
I
But
think I agree. I think they're taking it too far. I just think that for those people who have that opinion, I
Mhm.
am going to not be as judgmental
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that's what they think. But as
verbally.
for me,
Verbal.
as for me, I have made a decision that that goes too far. And
Yeah,
as for the people
yeah.
who are in my circle, namely my son and my daughter,
Hmm.
I have talked to them about how I think it goes too far, and I will hope that they think so too, because there is a point of no return and we don't want to get there.
Right.
And
That's my point.
so,
That's my point.
you know,
And
I
there's a
just,
beauty in change. There is a beauty in acceptance. But when the house is on fire and it's
right,
involved, and you want to go back in there to get a pencil, it's
right,
just not logical. It's
right.
not. So it's like I keep trying to remind my kids of just that scenario. If the house is on fire and it's something materialistic that can be replaced, I can understand, you wanting it, but really, is it logical to run into a burning, engulfed house just to get something like a cup or a pencil or a plate? Like, really? It
And
doesn't make
how about this? Some things are sacred. Some things are
sense.
sacred. And Donna Summers opened up what should be a private intimacy
Mm-hmm.
to anybody who put that record on and put it all across the airwaves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the beginning of, in my mind, a slide down to where we are now. And who knows what door Little Nas is opening up with this video, because so many of his generation and those generations right around him are accepting of it. That's how things change, one little step at
Oh,
a time. And then the next thing you know, you look over and go, oh my God, how did we get here? So I guess I
and
just
there's
crossed
always
the
yin and
line
yang.
for me.
There's always someone that can say, just to pick it apart. I always like to play both sides, but
Mhm.
oh, Donna Summers was teaching women you can pleasure yourself and it's good to feel good about you.
No,
And
she
it's
wasn't.
like, I hear your point you're trying to raise, but
I don't
some
recall
things
her
are
doing that.
private. Some things are sacred.
And let me say that I should really just listen to the record, because what I'm going on are my recollections, but I don't recall there being any empowering words or anything. And
No,
you
it's
can,
interpretation. That's what people go on. People go on interpretation now. Whatever you want to interpret it as, like the one person can be appalled of hearing, a really racy, sexy song, and then the other person can hear the exact same thing and hear, like, are you kidding me? To be able to curse like that when you weren't able to curse one time like that is empowering. And you're just like, I hear both sides. I
and
just know
that's
what's up.
okay. And that's okay. But I think that we should have some things for the general population and then other things for those who want to go down that road.
Exactly.
Some stuff shouldn't just be on television at 3 in the afternoon and on the radio in the morning. I don't drop kids off anymore, but presumably on the radio in the morning when we're dropping our kids off to school, because they don't
Well,
make any distinction. They don't have any quiet storm, honey. It's all It's all in your face all day.
Oh, and not only is it in your face, I was just looking at something on social media last night, I believe, and there was this, there's a lot of parents and their little kids doing things, like musicallys and on social media, and it was this one where this girl was using a song with her beautiful little girl that was like, I can't even tell. You know what? I'm not even going to degrade myself by telling you the language in this
What's the
cursing.
name of the song?
Um, I'm not even gonna
Or-
put that up there. You know what? I'm
Okay,
not
I
even gonna,
don't know. I didn't see it, so I
no, I'm
don't know.
not even gonna give credence to the song because it is so sexual, hypersexual. And the little girl, I'm gonna say maybe she's 5, maybe she, and her mother let her rap those lyrics. Now, mind you, she was rapping it to that song, but I was just remembering, like, when did that become okay
It's
for
not
her to
okay.
say?
And subliminally, that she's
And
exposing
it
her
was the
kid to
F
too much.
bomb, meaning as in sex.
Oh, not even as a curse word, as
You know,
a. Oh wow,
and that was the little girl's lyrics. And I just remember, and I
that's
tried to
not
brace
okay.
myself. How do I be okay with this? Because of course, I wanted to be like, wait a minute, hold up. When
That's
is
not
this
okay.
okay? And I read the comments, and only thing I read in the comments was, oh, she's so cute. Oh, I can't wait to have a daughter so we can
What
duet and do stuff.
social media are you on, child? I'm on TikTok now. I've been watching some of it. I
Mhm.
continue to be
I
on
will
IG.
send
I'm
you
on
that
Facebook.
video. I will
That
send you that video, but because, like I always say, I'm an energy person, I always feel like now I just transferred that
oh, you don't have
negative.
to send it to me. I'll just take your word for it. But
You
I
know what
just
I'm
don't think
saying?
that
Like
that's
that's why
okay.
I try to monitor because I know that they part of the ploy that which you said about we're in spiritual warfare. That's all part of it too. Putting out something in the negative air, and then even if I don't like it, if I transfer it to somebody, say, "Look at this," I just transferred that right over. So I try to stop it with
Yeah,
my eyes on
yeah,
myself.
I'm good with that. You can stop
Yeah.
it. But that spiritual warfare goes on many levels because if you have parents now allowing their young children, daughters to recite lyrics like that and their sons to recite all kind of misogynistic, violent lyrics, you're destroying the next generation because subliminally, all of those things are now ideas, possibilities in their heads that perhaps never would have even occurred to them. And I just want to say that it's not okay. It's a
Mhm.
parent's job. Think back. It's our job to protect our children's innocence until
Mhm.
such time as they should learn to be more exposed so that they don't end up being too naive. And at 4 and 5 years old, you should not be talking about physical intimacy using the F word and dancing and having your mom sing it with you like it's okay, because to me, that's not okay.
No, not at all.
Parents have to
Made
hold the
me
line
it
somewhere.
made me uncomfortable. But then I said, how high is this bar or how low is this bar set? Because I remember reading a couple years back, and I don't know if you heard about it, but I believe she was Caucasian and she was a virgin, and she put her vagina on either Craigslist or some type of website where she auctioned it off, and she raised over $2 million. And there's a comedian that has a joke out now about that, saying every woman in here is pissed that they didn't think of that first. And I don't know. I tried to go both ways. Like I told you, I sat there for a second and say, could I? And I couldn't get past it.
This
I
was a
said,
grown woman, though, right?
I believe she was like 21. She wanted to pay for college. So she
Yeah,
was like,
I mean, like if you're going, it's not something I've done and I certainly wouldn't recommend it, but I wouldn't really come down too harshly on that. I think that somewhere our society is forgetting that there's a difference between children and adults, and there should be, and we want there to be. We don't want our children learning about sexuality in kindergarten. They don't need to know that. It's just too much. If she wants to sell
you know why? I
her
think it's
virginity, what she really sold was her virginity.
yeah.
And I can see both sides, like, well, heck, you're gonna give it up at some point anyway. It's daggone clever to do it in a way that gets you more than $1 million. But it's just not something I recommend. But for an
It,
adult, have at it, you know?
but that's where I say it's universal, like energy, because now that I want to say she was 2021 and could have been a brilliant idea for her. So, but that's her. But what about the age where it's legal to have sex and be intimate or whatever at 16. Now you
That's
have this
around the
16-year
age.
old who can say she's an adult and do the same. Like when, and then if they lower the age to 15, and then there's a 15-year-old who feels like they can. I mean, I was very mature for 15, and I look back at what I was doing at 15 and 16, and I still know, like you said, eventually you're gonna give it away anyway. And if, why not get paid for it if you're gonna do it? And it's probably gonna be with someone you're not gonna end up with, not like, or whatever. I get all that. But I still want to think, when are we morally going to be responsible for
I
anything
mean,
anymore?
I absolutely agree with that, but I also can carve out space. So I agree that there should be a majority of us that are upstanding, moral, whatever it is we think that is. All of
Whatever.
us should be that. But I really can carve out space for an adult, a young adult, a middle-aged adult, an older adult who wants to go a different way. I'm not going to recommend that everybody follow her. I'm okay with that. I mean, it's a crazy story and I never heard it. But for
Really?
some reason, it doesn't bring me any outrage at
Okay.
all. But
And
and
it
I think
outraged
the
me to get
reason is
out.
that she's an adult. And the story you just told before that was a 4 or 5 year old little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I just have different standards.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So that's where I guess my parenting comes into where my kids think I'm whack is because I have so many different variations, and I don't want to be the grandmother who is appalled that you slipped up and said the word damn. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that grandmother, but then I also don't want to be the grandmother that is allowing it either. You know what I mean? I
A
want you to
grandmother that's pouring you a shot and saying,
right,
"Come on, honey, drink up."
right. I don't want to be that grandmother either. Like, I'm stuck in between still wanting old school upbringings where you just don't do certain things, and then there's times where I want the button to be pushed and I want these kids to not be put in a box and feel like they have to color in between the lines.
And that's probably exactly where we should be. Somewhere between wanting to maintain tradition, let's have some self-respect, let's
Mm-hmm.
exhibit some respect for others, let's have some self-discipline, all those good, strong values that make you into a great person, and exciting and open-minded enough to say, yeah, go ahead and push that envelope, disrupt that industry. We're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be somewhere in between the middle, and probably we're always trying to find that line. Probably
Right,
always trying
right.
to
And
find
I have
that line.
gone to the clubs with my daughters, and they have never drank or
I've
dropped it.
not done that.
All three have just been very. I probably was the worst one
I've
out of
not done
all
that.
three of
I've not
them.
been to a club with my kids yet, but I will go if there's one open that they can
Oh
get
yeah,
into.
I've been to the Megan Thee Stallion concert on New Year's, and I believe it was Blueface, Megan Thee Stallion. I forgot it was someone else there, but
But I
we.
went to the Chris Brown concert with my daughter, but I mean, I'm talking about a club where
Mhm.
we're really going to be dancing. I'm
Yep,
going to have
there,
some drinks. Now my
right.
son might be like, "I'll take one too,"
That's
and I don't.
right.
And my daughter would be like, probably in her mind, "Dang, if my mother wasn't here, I could give me a drink."
Yes, yes, yes. That would be.
I haven't done that, but we will all be respectful. But they're at the age where you could do some clean
Mhm.
fun like
Oh
that with
yeah,
them.
we went to Miami. We went out, and it was very comfortable for me because, like I said, I was probably the worst one out of the bunch because
You making them cringe, you think?
they were just so happy to see me turn up. They didn't know what to do. They just thought I was just a square. So
Oh,
they
okay.
had
Well,
been
that's
out with
nice.
me before, but as far as like clubbing, that was their first time, and they just was in heaven. I mean,
So
just
y'all would do it again? You guys would do it again?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I would love to go
Okay.
to. Like I told them just yesterday. I said I love hanging out with y'all. I love hanging out with my children, and in the future, of course they're getting older, but in the future, I probably will do more of my me being around my friends again. 'Cause, they're older now, and I know they're like, "Mom, like it was fun, but you need to
Well,
go to
they're going to be moving on and doing their,
right, right."
doing their own thing. So, and that's fine because we have lives to live too. Thank you
That's
very
true.
much.
That's true. I've been people I know.
So, you were telling me something about words and how words are used in society
Oh
nowadays.
yes, and I'm a person that believes. You can punch me in the face and I know you hurt me and I know it hurts, but words is something that repeat on top of repeat. Punch me in the gut, the face, everywhere. And that's how words have always affected me. And and it's not even just harsh words. I'm not saying name calling or whatever. I'm talking about it could be something you said. But I notice now that this generation has just, we had the word bad. Oh, girl, you look bad now. That's a good word to say to somebody.
Right.
Because our grandparents, if you said you look bad, that meant you had not a good day.
Right.
So we've learned our generation did change a lot of the horrible words that were used at us, because that starting with the N word, and our generation has pretty much started moving into, it was a term of endearment.
I don't know how I feel about that, but okay, that is what people
Yeah,
say.
that's what they say.
That's what
So
they
we'll say
say.
that's because I'm on the fence with that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Do I use the word? Have I used it as a term of
Of
endearment? Yeah.
course. And have I used it as not a term of endearment? Of course, but mhm.
So, so now this generation has created so many different words that I look at my kids and I'm just like, Black Dictionary, Urban Dictionary,
So,
because
like, for example, what kinds of words are you talking about?
okay, so we know that there's words called cap. And you like,
Oh, no cap.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, I know what no cap is. So what does cap mean? And cap is just
Saying they tripping. Yeah, yeah.
yes. So it's so funny because I heard a word the other day, and was it vexation? I said it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, you
So
said it was vexationist.
vexationist is the word I heard a man use. So I looked
Mm-hmm.
it up, and it wouldn't pop up as vexationist. And
Okay.
then I looked up vexation, which of course probably was the same word he was using. He was just putting more emphasis on the end. And from
Mhm.
that word derived me finding out that everyday words are being put into the dictionary from just what someone might say. So there was a girl not many years ago, but it was a few years back. She was on the Maury Povich show, and she was saying how her child looked like the father because of his ers. We didn't grow up saying.
Oh wow, I get it now that you said. Well, I think you said it earlier. I didn't know what you meant, but I get it
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Look at, they both got the
I
same
think
ears.
that's called accent. That's not a word.
Oh no, it's in there.
It's
It's
in the
also
Webster
meaning
dictionary.
ears. Like they have literally are so. And I said to myself, who's doing this? Why are we doing this? Is it because you're trying to be kind to people who mispronounce or just have an accent, and you want the world to know what they're saying when they say it? Because that's a new thing now. The new
So
thing.
is this the modern day slang dictionary, the Black dictionary, the Merriam-Webster? What dictionary is
All
hers
of
in?
the above that these words are
What?
being put in. So because you remember ebonics was our era. Remember that when that word came out? It's ebonics. We spoke ebonics, which I never really, I mean, I do joke around when I write to people and say stuff, but my brother speaks fluent ebonics and he's from Atlanta. And my other brother, because we're from, the DMV area, we always say, can't you just spell what you mean or say what you
Well,
mean? But he will
DC
spell.
has Ebonics too, and a whole way of pronouncing things too. Like instead of saying Maryland, people who are really from will say Merlin.
Mhm.
Merlin.
And then
Yeah, and there's
Baltimore,
a lot of little words when somebody starts talking. I'm like, oh man, that's straight from DC.
or
So we
Baltimore,
all have
because
our
it's Baltimore.
accents.
It's Baltimore. Well, the other side says Balmer, and then they say
Oh,
Baltimore, and then they say
mhm.
Baltimore. So it's,
Yeah, I'm on the Baltimore side, but you're right. I have heard that. I have heard that.
oh yeah, and if you're upstate, you say instead of oil, your oil. You're like, what is
In
oil?
Maryland?
No, it's if you're in New York,
Oh
D.
yeah, or like instead of her, they
Yeah,
say, "Look at her, look at
look
her."
at her. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So, but I mean, I don't want to start seeing that in the dictionary. I want us to
well, you're gonna start.
understand that those are just local dialects or ways of pronouncing words. I don't
Because
want to see
it's
ers,
no
and
more
I don't
tomato,
want to
tomato,
act like that's a word.
tomato,
Ers.
tomato, tomato, tomato is what they say. So you're gonna have to
Yeah,
put
but guess what? Tomato spells the same. So
it
does
spells the
potato,
same,
potato.
right? It's
But
pronounced
ears,
different.
ears, and ers don't spell the same.
But see, that's where they're saying the new world is changing. It's not about just how you spell it anymore. It's about how you pronounce it. Because they're moving into, we're visual learners now. I get it. I get it because I'm a visual learner. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking we are pushing these buttons. And that's like I said, this all started from me just hearing a word and saying, well, what does that mean? Because I know what one means, but and it doesn't have to mean it. It meant what he said it meant.
So a little bit that's contradictory because we're so digital, we're
Mhm.
so computer, texting, all of that sort of stuff. So that can be very confusing. Now, if we're just zooming and stuff,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just don't know. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but
Right.
hers, I just,
But what do you teach your
you know,
kids now?
mm,
What do we teach? And we have young adults, but what do we, but we eventually, I have a granddaughter and you eventually going to have grandkids. What do we teach the next generation when we say, don't pronounce that? It's not,
I'm going to
it's,
teach them the proper words and then
are we? Are you going
I
to?
am. I mean, but you know what? I'm
Everyone in the
actually
class is
not going
saying
to be I'm actually not going to take responsibility for that. I'm going to let my children raise their kids. And
Mhm.
then when they come over, I'm going to be like, honey, you know that's not a word.
That's
I'm
so
just
funny.
kidding. I'm
But
just kidding.
I literally wanted to do this challenge with my granddaughter's mother about words because she pronounced words so different, being as though
Where's she
she's
from?
from DC. So she'll say Michelle and I say Michelle. And so I wanted to do the
Mhm.
challenge where I actually told her I wanted to do that because just so many words she say that I don't say, and well, I don't pronounce the same way. So I understand now why they want to do it as far as pronunciation, because she's not wrong for saying Michelle. I'm not wrong for saying
Is she
Michelle.
sure? You sure that's not because remember that singer Michelle Indege or Cello or whatever her name was? Because I grew up in DC. We have a lot of friends named Michelle, and we
Michelle
call them
Donatello.
Michelle.
Yeah.
We
Well,
call
we
them Michelle.
pronounce it. We're from here, so we pronounce it Michelle. But PG County and DC will say that's my girlfriend Michelle. And
You know what? You
even if you
might be
ask
right.
them
That's
for
that.
gel,
That doesn't sound out of the question.
yeah, if you ask them for gel for your hair, they'll say gel, and it's like, no, 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 I need gel. No, no, no,
Oh no, I
gel.
say jail. Jail.
Yeah,
Well, I
see, I
say,
say,
but jail is. I can say either.
see, and you
I
can
can
hear
say
yourself
either.
saying it clearly, but I know what you're saying when you say it to me. But it's at the, but
Oh, but
now,
it almost sounds like imprisonment, jail.
yeah,
Instead.
that's what
Mhm.
it sounds like to me too.
But
Yeah.
see, for all of that, I'm okay. Their dialects, their ways of talking. We know in the South there's going to be a twang. We
Mhm.
know up north there's going to be some other twist. We
So you
even
know
know
what?
that when English people come from Europe here, they're going to be saying lender instead of
Mhm.
Linda. They,
Linda,
we know that people have all that, but now we're going to put that. Well, if it were a dictionary of accents or a dictionary of
that's
dialects
what
or
I think is going
something
to have
like
to be.
that, that would
I
be
think they're
okay.
trying to do both, but I think eventually it's going to have to be one made for one because I had a friend who was from Australia, and I've been saying mother and father my whole life.
That's a DC thing.
And
I don't
I was
say it, but
told
that's a DC thing.
it's
Yes.
mother and father as I got older. Now,
Mhm.
when she came from Australia, she said it like it wasn't any. And I remember stopping her. I said, "You said my mother?" She was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
my mother."
that's what they
And I'm like,
say.
and
Mhm.
this is a Caucasian woman. And I said,
Mhm.
I've been saying mother my whole life. And I was told by all my teachers, it's not mother, it's mother and father. She's
But
like, girl,
you know, European English, British English is not the same as American English.
right, right,
So
right.
they say stuff that we don't say and vice versa.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. So
That's
that's
funny.
that was
That's
another
funny.
thing that was all derived from one thing that I was doing, and it led into all this. So it's like, gosh, I remember making sure my kids enunciate, and have this verbal communication with the world. And here I'm looking like, I wasted lots of years trying to tell you stop saying that, don't use that. It,
Because I'm wondering, even as we're sitting here, I'm wondering now that the world is becoming more global, does it might make sense to do that because I don't know why I'm keep coughing, but or having phlegm, but let's say we're American and we know that a person from Atlanta
Mhm.
is going to say a particular word with a twang,
Mhm.
but somebody from Nigeria or somebody from Australia is not going to know what they're saying. It could be useful to have a dictionary
Yep.
that says it exactly the way they pronounce it to
Yep.
facilitate
And
communication. So I
it's
guess
gonna
it could
be
be
ears.
useful.
Yep. It's gonna
It could
be
be
ears
useful.
for ers.
This is silly, but but it
Remember
could be
scrimp?
useful.
It's still scrimp. Scrimp.
Do you
Yeah,
think scrimp is in there?
I know shrimp and scrimp is going to be in there. I know it
Oh
is.
my
I didn't look it
goodness.
up, but I know it is because I remember for years people, ha ha ha, she said scrimp. And I was just
Mhm.
like, why is he laughing at her? Because eventually, I used to say this back in the day. I say, because eventually everybody's going to be saying it. Like it was so
Wow.
catchy when I heard the first person say that. It was so catchy. And here today, 2001, that's like the known word that every rapper, singer, it says in their song is
In a
scrimp.
joke though.
In
They
a
say
joke.
it as a
In a
joke though,
joke.
right?
It's as a joke, they do, but it's like I didn't all those years. I had to be about 16 when I heard that for the first time. I was like,
Oh.
scrimp. What is a scrimp? Because it
See,
was
I thought you were going somewhere else with the words, like, we made up stuff like bling, bling,
Mhm.
bling, and bootylicious and
Oh, all of
stuff
those words
like that.
then.
But see, back then, a
Mhm,
word had to be in general usage for a certain amount of time
mhm.
before they were added to the book. It sounds like now they're just putting things in willy-nilly.
So we understand what y'all talking about. Y'all decide to talk.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there's some value to that. And certainly a slang dictionary so we know what the kids are talking about.
Yeah, and I agree because I Google it all the time, especially when they use initials and stuff. I have no clue when they send me some like even
Oh,
with
you
with
mean when they're texting you stuff?
yeah, they text me all words that don't have any vowels in them, and I'm just like, what in
Mhm.
the world? How am I supposed to decipher this? And I don't want to sound like I'm played out, so I have to go to the phone and Google it. What does this mean? And give me maybe LOL, laugh out loud, lots of laughs. I'm like, okay, I got it.
And some of the stuff they say is weird. Like when they were saying turned up, well, we all were saying turned and all
Mhm.
that. When they start saying lit, that was cool. But then when they start saying it's gonna be litty, I'm like, that's weird. Some of their
Do
slang
we
is
spell it
weird to
Liddy
me.
or Liddy? I
Liddy is
remember
litty.
saying,
I'm like, what? But
but they make it hot. They make it hot, and I see why that they're adding words now for other people to understand what that means because it's becoming an everyday thing, and it's not anything wrong, and people don't want you to think it's wrong. I mean, yeah, it might seem weird. You got a whole letter you've written in a board meeting, and it's saying today's,
that's
meeting is
the part.
committee. Today's
That's the
meeting
part that's a little bizarre with the
right.
That's the part with like words like ers and stuff like that. That's
Mhm.
just a little bizarre. I don't know that that would be acceptable in a business setting, but see, you say that now, 10 years from now, people be writing
But
ers.
imagine if you're having a meeting with all rappers. You know what I mean? They might read it and be like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo," and keep reading it and interesting. And then you're looking like you can't be serious. Like we seriously talking like this now, but you better get with the program because now they're doing it. So, and I say rappers because they have such a wide variety of slang
Right.
that they can use. That's the only reason why I said that. I
Right.
wasn't trying to, colorize anything. But let's move on to my favorite thing,
Okay.
which is the Pharaoh history.
Okay.
And I know that, okay, I was the only Black child in pretty much my classes growing up. There was like two of us, and each class got one of us. So either the other class, fifth grade class got one, and the other fifth grade, but we never could be together, even though we wanted to be. And we are,
Wow.
yeah. So growing up, you just adapted to your surroundings. You didn't know you were white. You didn't know you were Black. At least I didn't. And but you knew something was different. You just didn't know what it was. So
So
as
the
I got
fact that they always separated you in the classes did not clue you into anything?
no, because I was always considered to be in the class with the kids who were more um, educated and had higher test scores and could verbally
So with the
communicate
smarter
better.
kids.
So I always thought that that's why they were putting me in this side.
Well, is it the case that the other little girl wasn't as smart?
No, she's very smart, very intelligent, very talented. But that was how I coped with thinking
Okay.
what separated us, because
Okay.
I knew she was equally as smart as I was, and maybe even smarter, but she just couldn't be in my class.
Oh,
So that's the way I thought about it.
okay.
And so of course I was always seeking knowledge, always, always, always. We didn't have the computer. We did have computers, but we didn't have the computer at our disposal like we have it now. So now that everything is there and people are letting out secrets because it's getting them money on YouTube, and the things that we just weren't capable of knowing back then, I find so fascinating now. But it was also a spiritual side of me that knew we came from greater, just knew it. Like, we had pictures of a white Jesus. I think his name is Reverend Abernathy.
Hmm.
He was a light-skinned, beautiful man. God, he was a God to all the old people. And we had a picture of the 12. What are they, disciples at the Last Supper?
12 disciples.
Okay, so we had the picture of that on our wall, and I
And they were all white except Reverend Abernathy, who was really light skinned.
yeah, but he was on the plate, because you remember we used to have the plates, or grandparents used to have the plates with the figures on them. It looked just like a dinner plate that you eat off of, maybe a little decorative around the edge, but there was God on, I mean, Jesus on one, the white Jesus with the long hair, looking up at the light, and then there was the Reverend, and then there was the plate with the 12 disciples
Oh,
at the
so this
Last
was
Supper.
a set of plates.
So it was a set. It wasn't a set because there were different ones. Like, one was a big white one, and one was like a beige one,
Oh,
and then
but these were
long,
variety of plates that she had
yeah,
got.
and then the other one was like a
The
long
long one sounds familiar with the Last
disciple.
Supper, with the
The
Last
Last
Supper.
Supper. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So that one, that's how much my grandmother had them on the wall. Peacock, peacock, fork, fork, spoon, spoon. That's that's how the wall was decorated. So I can remember like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
And I just remember all the time sitting there looking, going, it's just something ain't right about this. Like, it's just
Mm.
something not right about this. Like, why is everything like that? Like, it just,
Why
so
is
it was
everything white?
yeah. And where did I come from? Where did we come from? Like, where's my, and I looked places, like we had the encyclopedia, the red encyclopedias. I remember going to the encyclopedia, looking up history and looking up what black meant. That's when I first found out what black meant and what white meant. And I was like, ooh, black meant everything bad, white meant everything good. And I remember things clicking, 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 but I couldn't say anything, because the one time I did, I remember my teacher looking at me like, who's teaching her this, or how she energy alone. I knew, okay, well, what I do know, I can't
So
speak
your
on.
grandparents never talked about that kind of race issue,
Never.
racism, discrimination. We talked about that in my household.
No, my
So I
grandparents
was
never brought that
aware. I mean, it was a whole Black Power time. I was aware of all of that. I mean, it was post Black
up.
Power, but I
No
knew.
one, not even my mother and father. My grandfather worked for the Ford Motor Company, and he actually worked for Mr. Ford himself, and he was called his hired hand. And that man loved my grandfather. They both couldn't read or write, so he was my grandfather's everything. And they both lived in a
Where
world
was this?
where was my grandfather?
Yeah.
He lived in Maryland, but the Ford Motor Company, of course, they had businesses all over the world. So when he would come to the East Coast, well, when he come to New York or to Maryland, my grandfather and him was, I mean, I could go a little bit into that in the future. He bought my grandfather a house, bought my grandfather any car he wanted.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted my
I
grandfather.
bet you I want to wonder now, did your grandfather invent something that he stole? This is how white people, I'm sorry. That's
And of
okay.
course
Go
they
ahead.
would never tell us,
Right.
what I
And
mean?
just
Because
buy
all
you
my
a little
grandfather,
house or something.
yeah, my grandfather was just very happy to, have a beautiful home in a great neighborhood, very upscale neighborhood that was paid for. And
Mhm. Well, that is a wonderful blessing.
yeah, and his daughter got to go to the best schools. He got to drive the best cars. I mean, they didn't miss a beat. So
Okay.
my grandfather wasn't about to tell you that the white man was a bad man. He could tell you he was a cocksucker and he was, this and this and this. If you were a bad person, but never you were a white man, bad man, you were a white man, cocksucker, none of that. He would never use that type, and neither did my grandmother, neither one. So they never grew up teaching me about race at all. And I'm not saying racism, I'm just talking about race. It was years before I found out that I was Black. And I want to bring this full circle. I started seeing the other day that they disturbed 22 pharaohs. Like,
Okay, before we go on to that, I'm not going to forget that. Let me
okay.
just say that Wale has a song called
Mm-hmm.
Sue Me, and the chorus is Sue Me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black.
Mm-hmm.
But the video to the song
Mm-hmm.
shows the flip of everything that you were talking about. They're a white family living in the projects. The
Mm-hmm.
mother leaves, she's a nurse or a nursing assistant. And then the older brother is getting the younger white brother ready for school. On the
Mm-hmm.
toothpaste are black people, is black people. They are melanin oats with a black face instead of Quaker oats. There's a black Jesus on the wall. So he goes through all of that. The billboards are targeted to, on the billboards, you see white people being slammed against the ground and handcuffed and black people not. They do
Movie
the
out like that.
Starbucks thing where they call the cops on some white kids for sitting in there and not ordering. Everything is reversed. And I just love that video. I'd encourage you to watch it. It's really good.
I will definitely watch it after this ASAP. But there is a movie, I believe it's about Nate Turner. And I think Nate has a movie out like that also, which I haven't seen, but I definitely, it's on my list to watch
Oh,
because
well, let me check it out too. Nate Turner,
yeah,
where he flips the script and everything. It's like a Black World Order.
yep. And
Okay.
I can't wait to watch, but I have to get my mind right when I watch certain movies like that because, of course, it takes a toll on you, you know,
I
because
love all that. I have t-shirts that I sell. They say Black World Order. That's my new favorite hashtag on
really,
Instagram. Yeah, I go all the way. Be one, Black first, all that. You know,
I
I'm
have
about
a Black
all that.
Lives Matter T-shirt and I wear
I
it to
don't do
sleep.
Black Lives Matter though.
I have not wore it out the house because of the simple fact that I frequent places and I don't want whoever is against it to do something to me. That's the only reason why. Like, I don't need you spitting in my food because I'm on a Black Lives
I
Matter.
don't bel I'm not with the Black Lives Matter thing. Like we already know our lives matter. I want to
Mhm.
talk about Black power. I don't
Mhm.
want to be trying to get our humanity recognized. I want us to get
Right.
powerful. But when I went to Africa and I stopped in Belgium, I had on one of my t-shirts that said Black World Order. I just roll how I roll, and it is what it
I'm so
is. I mean,
proud of
I
you.
don't, they do what they do. Why can't we support and uphold our race?
Yeah, I'm so proud of you for that. I'm not there yet. I'm working on my
That's
working
okay.
on my spine. I'm working on my spine, but yeah, it comes with a lot of layers because, like I said, I've had my share of disappointments, but we'll talk about that in another
All
show.
right. So moving on to the mummies. Now we're talking about the story where they're moving the 22, what I would call royal uh
They are. They are calling them too.
mummies.
They're queens
Yeah.
and kings. That's right.
And
They're
now everybody's saying that they have activated a curse that was on
hey,
anybody who moves those
Howard Carter.
mummies.
Howard Carter was one of the first, and if you read about him, he was an archaeologist who disturbed King Tut's tomb, and from everyone, from his wife to his children, everyone had bad luck. Like, I mean, they were either met by death or tragedy, and he lived a long time, but they let him stay alive long enough to see all this. I
Like
don't.
Job, like the plague of Job, everybody around him got killed off.
I don't think people know that that's part of a curse or that's part of your payment for your sin, that you can be alive. So it's not like, oh, they stayed alive a long time, so nothing bad. No, that's not your punishment. If you descend from
Depending
this,
on the conditions that you were alive under. Yeah.
yeah. But I believe living healthy and having all your senses and your nobility, but everyone around you is suffering. I think that's worse. I
Mm.
take it on my back all day long to see my kids healthy and the next generation healthy and I'll take it all on my back. But to have me just healthy and everybody around me sick and dying, my
Mhm.
children, my mother, my father,
Depressing. You
it's
just be
depressing.
depressed. You just be
And so
depressed
I believe that
and
that
suicidal probably at that point.
or you just become dumb and try to act like it's not what it is. Because my thing is this: he lived quite a long time, but if you look up Howard Carter, a lot of people around him suffered. A lot of people and a lot of people died in his life, and it went on and on and on. It
So does
wasn't
that mean you believe in the curse?
110%. I believe it.
Really?
I've always believed it. That's why I know it's real, and I knew it was coming. And my son and I, we have this conversation because we're both into ancient Egypt beyond this
Oh, I
stuff.
remember you told me that he had been into it too since
Oh
he was
yeah,
young.
since he's always, and we have both always been a fan. And I remember when he called me a couple months back, and he's like, "Ma, you know, like soon they're ready to release some information about aliens and stuff like this." And I was like, "Yeah, I know that's what they want to call them, aliens." I said, "But I think they, you know, woken our ancestors." And I said, "I don't think it's gonna be good for them." And this was months back, maybe even.
Good. Let my answer, let them come back because we need some help to
Oh yeah,
overturn
I
this
think they see it.
system we've been stuck in. We need some help.
I think that's what it is. And it's crazy that you, not crazy, but it's beautiful that you said that, because that's that energy transferring. That's exact words I just said to my son. I said, we need help. I
Mm.
said, and I think they're on their way back. And I actually, it's probably even quoted that somewhere, but I said, we need help. I said, they're plucking us off like grapes right now. And
Mm.
I said, we don't know what to do. When you can stand there and watch a man being killed and you say, I can't go up to you and push you, I can't go up to you and throw nothing at you, I can't do anything, and then even afterwards I'm going to get blamed for this man perishing
Oh,
because
that was terrible.
I was
Yeah,
screaming.
you would expect to see the mob descend on Derek Chauvin to stop him from
Yeah,
doing what he was doing, but that's not what we saw.
no, no, we didn't. And it goes back to when we say, oh, well, I couldn't have lived during slavery because I would have did this. Now no,
Yeah, I
it shows
bet.
what you would have did.
Mhm.
It shows what you would have did, you know. And I think a lot of us are built different, though. You know, a lot of us are built different. But like I said, I think that our pharaohs, I think that our queens, our kings, our gods, I believe they're all coming back in full force. And I think you're gonna, once you start seeing the world treat us drastically different, you're gonna be like, oh, when did y'all stop being nice? And that's when you know they know too. So I just tell everybody that I believe that they disturbed the wrong, well, for us to write, but for them, I believe the world disturbed the wrong thing. And you can say, well, what if it's not even real? What if they really didn't disturb it? No, they did. They did, because you could see the parade, you could see the people that they had outside dancing to make you think, no, it was us. No, 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 no. The truth will come out. You doing all this and you doing all that. But when the truth come out, it's gonna look bad. So you're trying to hope and pray you get a leg up on it, but it doesn't work like that. You can clone whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but the truth is going to come out. It always does.
So what are you saying? Okay, first off, I will say that when you mentioned this story to me and I
Mhm.
looked at it, I also thought, well, let them come back because we can, again, we need all the help we can get. But are you saying that, I'm not sure if I'm reading between the lines, are you saying that non-blacks are doing this moving, but they had blacks out in a parade to make it look like
Oh, they
it was
had
us?
non-blacks out. They had
Oh,
talked.
they had the current Egyptians, the
Yeah,
the ones that somehow morphed from the black people we used to be
right,
into whatever
right.
they are now.
Right. That is exactly what I saw. And the reason why is
Okay.
because, like I said, bringing it full circle, when I was younger, I was seeking the knowledge of where we came from. Then I got some knowledge of where we came from. And then towards the end, I see that we came from more than just slavery. We came from more than just chains and boats, you know, and atrocities. We came from more than that. And I want to know, well, if we did, well, how did you skip that part in my history? How, because you taught me my history, not you know.
Because it's his story. It's not our story. It's
Exactly.
history, and
So
he
why
wants to
do you
show
feel for,
himself in a better light than us to perpetuate the system that elevates him above us.
okay, but why do you need to do that? Because if you did invent Trump Tower, it's beautifully gold building, all amazing and clean and so nice. I can give you props, but if I invented the pyramids, how can you not share that same love with me? What
Because
stuff?
we're not enslaving them and we're not holding them down and we're not shooting them and having open season on them in the streets. And so, in order to perpetuate all the myths, in order to sustain the society that favors white people, in
Mhm.
order to benefit from everything, in order to make themselves not look as bad as they really are for the brutality of
Mhm.
slavery, they've
Mhm.
got to dehumanize us and reduce our history to something that makes us seem primitive and not really recognize how they learn civilization from
Mhm.
us, that we
Mhm.
are the original man, that we are something elevated. There's no way they could continue on the way they're moving now if we really are the true inventors and creators and the original
So is it to
human
give
and all
themselves
of that. And
up?
here you are oppressing us
Mhm.
here and killing
Mhm.
us literally in the
Mhm.
streets, you
So,
know?
so was it to give themselves a head start because they know you can't keep us down? Do they know that, or are they just born? Or is there a certain race of people, or group of people, I should say, a group of people that are just so demonistic that they know that we're not the non? I mean, we don't get me wrong. We know the Black people do some demonistic things too. Whether we were taught it, whether it's in us, no matter how it came about, I still feel like we're soulful. That's a whole nother level, but I just feel like we're
Yeah, we're
soulful.
different. We're different.
You know, and it comes through with gifts like singing and dancing. You can say whatever you want about it, but those
Comes through with the Messiah complex, wanting that kind of leader, being more earthy, being more humane. We are just not abusing animals. We're not the same. I'm sorry.
not on
We're just not
any
the same.
corporation level. We might participate because of whatever reason they participate for, the money, the job, the whatever for your family, whatever. But as far as
You mean
corporate
participate?
participate, meaning like if there's a company out there that's bashing a mink, baby mink in her head to get her fur, that's not our company. We're not doing
Oh,
that. We
you're
might
right.
work for
You're
that
right.
damn
Yeah, we
company.
don't create those
Yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
We
We
don't
might
create
we
those
might make the
systems.
fur coat or help stitch the fur. I'm not saying we do. I'm just
We
saying.
might go out and fish. They're killing the seas. We might go out and fish
Right,
because we need that job, but we're not creating a system where we have a big net rolling across the
right,
sea
right.
and killing all kinds of things we're not trying to catch. We don't do that.
Exactly.
We
So that's what I
respect
mean.
nature.
We are participants in a lot of things that has been already created, but as far as corporately, we don't bring, we don't do it. So, and the
But
reason why I say that is because when do we teach our children? Do we start now saying, "Hey, this is her story," since he
our
had his
story,
story,
our story.
this is our her story, So, do
Yeah,
we
we
tell them
start
that?
immediately. Like my son, my stepmother had given my son a big poster of the
Mhm,
various kings and queens of Africa with their names and stuff. I
mhm.
don't know how much he paid attention to that. He kept
Oh,
it. This was in another house. He still has it. He brought it here and
mhm.
still has it in his room upstairs. I always talk about how great we are. We teach them from the beginning so that they
I
can
gave my
have.
son similar to that, and he still has it all these years later. And I think he was probably about 10 when I gave him
Mhm.
his. And it was because I knew that was his story that I wanted him to know about. I wanted him to know that I want you to be interested in this. This is what I feel like we came from under all circumstances. I always could never identify with the story that I was told, that I had to be told in school about slavery and the pilgrimage and the pilgrims and the Indians and the and Thanksgiving and all the Easter, whatever. I never felt right. Even I haven't celebrated those holidays in years, but for what they're worth, I haven't celebrated. Like Christmas is just for family gatherings and we exchange presents because
We
we want to,
do, but we're not really
but we don't celebrate
Christmas, yeah. We
the
should
real.
do it on another day, really, because
Yeah, but
we're not really celebrating what they're
no, I'm not
celebrating.
celebrating Christ's birth on that
It's
day,
a
and I
time
got
to come
over it.
together for the
Right.
family to be
For the
together
family.
more than
Yeah.
anything else, to
And
stop everything else and come together.
that's what I feel like we've done. So that brings us to the
But
third.
back to your original question, I
Mhm.
believe that the stories, the false history that they created and all of that, part of that, because I could never really figure out, and we were so great, how they get us in this spot where we're all jacked up
Was
and
my
at the
thing.
bottom of the heap all over the globe. And so I think that those kinds of things are part of the way that they got to us. It's a spiritual thing where you separate a person from their history, you rewrite their history to not be anything to be proud of, and all that sort of thing was how they got us here in the first place, as well as how they maintain what they're doing.
But
That's just my opinion.
if you have two mothers and two fathers, and the two
Mhm,
mothers and two fathers have 14 kids apiece between each other, which
mhm,
that makes 28 kids. Well,
mhm.
I can kill off mom and dad now and raise these 28 kids to believe whatever I want them to believe. So
Mhm.
I know that that's how it started because that's the only way you can
Because
start.
they took the kids from they did it to the to Native Americans too. They did it to the Africans. They took the kids away to schools and stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
and they justify it by whatever mean they justified it as, so they could bring the next generation up to only know his story. You know what I'm saying? So now it's time that we want to know, because we still don't know, even though we got a lot of information at hand right now, we still don't know our story. They just showed it to us on the news that they scooped up our ancestors, and that had to be our ancestors, because only us can be in 200-degree heat and don't get skin cancer and don't, get melanoma and can survive that type of heat. Only us.
Mhm.
We have our
We're the
built-in
only ones. We're the only
only ones
ones.
to do it. So you scooped them up, you paraded them through the street, and we're supposed to look at it and be like, "Oh, that's so beautiful." But at the same time, I don't know who did. I would love to hear other African American women and men speak on this, because I didn't feel that good. I didn't look at it like, oh,
And you know what?
so
They have
beautiful.
they have so many of our artifacts. They have so many of our artifacts. Like France has over 90,000. The British museums are filled with them. Remember at the beginning of the Black Panther movie, that's what it was about. Them going to the um, American museums looking for artifacts with vibranium, because
Mhm.
they had all of our artifacts, but they were not aware of which ones were vibranium and which ones were not. So Killmonger and whatever that beastie white guy name
Mhm.
was were going in to find the vibranium stuff, but they have tons of our artifacts. There's been a movement in recent years for the Europeans to return the
Mhm.
artifacts to Africa. I think Benin is getting a lot of ones back from France, and there's a push for that. So this is just another step in that direction, but you might be right that it's a step that's gone too far.
Mhm.
A step that's gone too far now.
I believe it was written somewhere. I do. I believe it was written somewhere, the date, the time, the hour, and the minute. I think when they say that in the Bible, it didn't mean what they told us it meant. When they said that he will return and no one will know the day, the time, the hour, or the minute, or the second, I don't believe it was what they said it was. I believe when he returned, it was going to be not just to save his people, but to also let his people know that this was a test of their faith. They had an opportunity to get it right, and they had an opportunity to be overcome. But I'm sorry I had to use my children like I did my son, you know what I'm saying, to spare, to have y'all go through this to see what the outcome would be. But this is what you are, this is where you're from, and this is where y'all going. I'm not saying it's going to be this overwhelming, ascending out thing. I just think at this point in time, no matter this, the saying, no matter what you do to me will not come to pass. I really believe it. I believe this is our time. Our energy is changing. Things are different. And I don't know if that you can call it a curse. Of course, you're going to always call it something negative, but I don't believe it's a curse. I believe it's a blessing that,
Well, it may be a curse to the people that actually moved
well,
it,
it's a curse to
but it
them, but
may endure to our benefit.
when
Yeah.
the news says it, they say it's like awakening a
Egyptian
curse. That we're
curse.
all going to suffer from it. I don't believe that.
Oh,
That's
you
what.
don't believe that. I didn't even feel that when I first watched it. And I don't necessarily share the same views of what you're saying right now, but I do believe that ultimately we win. And so I'm on board.
How though? Do you think
I'm
a book
just
of
on board.
knowledge? Do you think a book of knowledge? You think the Catholic Church will say, okay, it's time to let them see what the book of knowledge says, or what we
The
took from
biggest
them?
demons out there. I don't know
But
about
that
that.
well, you know that they had a lot of knowledge through that
And
entity.
you know that the representations are that there's a whole underground under the Vatican with
Yeah,
all of our books and ancient knowledge. So that the
the,
Catholic churches are
the new generation spills it all. The new, unless, and I don't believe they can destroy it either. I think it's protected. I think they wish they could have destroyed it. I think they tried to destroy it, but when they saw it was undestroyable entities in this world, I really do believe that. And the reason why I believe that is because if I know that the code to this $1 trillion that I have right here if it gets out, you all will know the truth. I'll just destroy the code. But if the code is, it can't be destroyed.
Indestructible.
Yes,
Mhm.
indestructible, can't be destroyed. Then I got to keep it
Hide
around,
it.
but I just got to keep moving it and hiding it and moving it and hiding it so you don't find it.
I
So that's
like that theory. That's a nice theory.
well, I think that's what the pharaohs are being moved for. They got to move it again. They
Every
got
see,
to
you know, this takes us all the way back full circle to the beginning of the conversation with Lil Nas X and some things are sacred. Some things you just don't touch. And perhaps, I mean, we will all see, perhaps this is one of those things where they just went upon sacred ground and did the wrong thing. And we shall see.
Yeah. And I'm not a biblical person, so I don't preach the Bible and I don't ask my family to read it. And I've read definitely passages. I've definitely even seen, the Bible version of the movie. The Bible, it was more of a cartoonish, but it was real. But the reason why I say it was cartoonish, because it was on VH tape and it was using humans, but the technology wasn't there. And I just
Okay.
remember this one scene where I think it was set in his wife, I believe, and he told her never to look back, keep running because she would be turned to stone.
Oh, dang, Set is from ancient Egypt. It was Lot. It was
Lot,
Lot
Lot and
in
his
the
wife.
Bible
That's
story.
who it was, and I
Yeah,
don't know how
Lot.
I forgot. Yes, it was Lot and his wife, and he
And
told
she
her not
turned
to look
into a pillar of salt.
and she would, and that was the only thing that struck me down as a youth. It struck me down, and it kept me a fear in me, and it was
Really?
explained away because, of course, it stayed with me. So I had to find out what did that mean. What did that mean? And so basically, I was told by someone in the religious faith that it was more so of a sin. So if you disobey, then the ultimate punishment will not you will not be able to be, with the valley of the living or the valley of the good or whatever. So
See, I
basically
thought it was more metaphorical.
it
I
was
thought it
metaphor.
was more about, they were leaving sin, where it
Hmm.
was Sodom and Gomorrah,
Hmm.
just like going to where this
Exactly.
Babylon we're living in is going now. And so I thought that the metaphor was the looking back was the longing for the
And,
sin.
and that's what I was
And
probably trying to
that's,
get across. So
oh,
thank
okay.
you for helping me. Because that's
Okay.
exact you worded it perfectly. That was what was in here, but it couldn't come out here. And
Okay.
that's exactly what I was saying. And
Okay.
um and it helped me. So I knew like to always know don't leave what I believe. Don't leave what I believe. If I believe and if that when I say something doesn't feel right, don't make it feel right.
Oh,
Don't be
you're
like,
right, right,
oh,
right.
times have
Right.
changed. You got to change with the time. That's where it brings it all full circle with our parenting. I am not going to always be okay, and I'm going to stay firm in it. And the reason why is because I do think the time is coming where we're ready to be. And I'm not conspiracy theorist at all, but when I
Oh,
say
yes, you are. No, I'm kidding. That would be me. Go
no,
ahead.
no. I love conspiracy. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but I'm just not one. I will shut it
I
down.
believe in a lot of them, and I believe all the people are going to be like, "Oh my God, they were right all along." One day, but anyway, go ahead.
I believe that. I believe that. And I just believe that it's coming full circle. So I believe we all need to, because our grandparents didn't tell us to get right for some reason. All right, y'all better get right because he coming back, like you said. That was one thing of it because that was all they knew. But I think as time go on, it's so much bigger than he's coming back. It's bigger than you better get right because times are changing. It's time to be judged. It's so to me, it's bigger than that. It's big. It's time to know that it's time to not condone sick stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's time to not fall into this category of, but if it makes money, do it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's so
Hmm.
and I
I
hate
agree.
saying
All
that
money is
because
not good money, and people don't
right.
seem to recognize that anymore.
No, because it hindered us for so long as Black people. We were hindered by those things because we were like, well, they doing it and they still blessed, and we do it, and we get told that all money ain't good money, and it's like So forget that. You know, we want our heaven here on earth. But I think it was bigger than that. But nobody had the language and the knowledge to explain that to us. That it's easier for a poor man to get to heaven than it is for a rich man to get through, or the poor man to get through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get to heaven. Did I say it right?
So yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it was the parallel is basically
That was that
easier for,
set up the proper.
yeah, a poor man to get through the eye of a tiny little needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven, because we don't know what he did to get it, and if he did do horrible things to get it, then he's gonna have to pay for all of that.
I
So,
mean, like, I don't believe all that stuff in the Bible, but I do believe there are
but
a
no, it was
lot of
only put on us.
truths. But I do believe there are a lot of truths in the Bible. I believe some of that stuff is just whatever. But
No,
they
that's why
took some
I think the
truths and
scriptures.
clothed it and
Yes,
wrapped
that's
it.
what I'm
And
saying. That's
yes,
exactly what I'm
yes,
saying.
I agree. I agree.
They put so much lie to linger in there with the hard truth of it, that I think the more I study and the more I read about certain things, I truly believe that, because I used to be like, yeah, you're not going to keep telling me that everything's a sin and I shouldn't make money like this because it's a sin. And you should, I was
Mhm.
that person. But
Okay.
now that I'm older, I realize why our ancestors were saying that, why our greats were saying that. How could they be content with what they had when so many other people had so much more? Don't you want what they have? Don't you want more? And I couldn't, it angered me as a young person to know that I saw other people with so much more and saw us with so much less, and
Mhm.
my parents were more content. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, why are you so content with nothing? To me, it was nothing, but you know, you have these people over here who have love and have bigger this and better that. We need more than just love, you know, but now I get it. I truly get it, because
And you get, and what is the bottom line that you get?
I get that if you lose yourself in a big beautiful house with all the cars and all the trimmings, but you lose yourself in that, is you had nothing anyway. So you could have stayed with so much less and still had your soul, and still had your
Mhm.
soul. Now, if you can get to those places and still keep your soul, have at it, do it. But if you do what the little you know who did, the little you know
Mhm.
who did the
Mhm.
video, now he's gonna have a big house and he's gonna have a beautiful car and
Money,
he's
riches, yeah.
gonna have
Yeah.
it all. And I'm not saying he should have stayed poor. I would never wish that on anybody. But if that's what it took for you to get there, now that it's time for us all to get ready to be judged in whatever way the judge comes, or the world is about to be judged, have you lost your soul?
Mhm.
You know what? How are you going to manipulate the world
That's
now
that thing
that
in
you
the
don't know
Bible too, you the pity of the man who gains the world but loses his soul.
soul? Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true.
And of course we've manipulated those words that long. Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's what the Bible preaches. That's what the pastor preach. And that's why we don't have nothing now. You believe that lie that they sold you. Well, they don't even believe it because they don't even live by it. I get you and I hear you, but I really believe that if it touched you, if it touched us, it might not have touched him yet. So he might be forgiven. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be forgiven, but it might not have touched him yet. But once it does touch you, I think you have to wake up and realize, okay, I'm sorry, because you have too many celebrities right now going, I sold my soul. You got Kanye right now in Haiti
Well, I
trying
mean, it
to
does
sales off.
make you wonder. Yeah, you do have him, what, trying to remove the hex.
So what do you think? I think once it hits you that I was willing,
And
how is
how?
that
You know
possible?
what though? Okay, we might have to have another conversation on this
Okay.
next time. But that's kind of a parallel to what you were saying about Lil Nas X,
Mhm.
because look how much fame and fortune the Kardashians have. The fact that Kanye's over there trying to remove a hex would tend to suggest that they obtained that through dark magic, let's call it. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Mhm.
So, just because people appear, and then from Eminem,
Mhm.
people appear to be happy and wealthy and all of that. I mean, they are. They
Mhm.
are wealthy. They appear
Mhm.
to be happy, but they can't sleep at night. I heard that about Lady Gaga too. Remember at one time her
Katy
sister
Perry?
was suing her because
Mhm.
Lady Gaga would not give her any time off because she
Mhm.
was afraid to go to sleep. These are just what they
Mhm.
say. I wasn't there, I don't know. But that, you know, that she was afraid to go to sleep at night because she would have
Mhm.
terrible nightmares. There are costs for things, you know. I do believe in dark versus light, good versus evil. I don't know if we want to call them Satan and Jesus, but I
Yeah.
do believe
Oh,
in those kinds of forces that are on this earth, and you choose. And the
mhm,
life you have
mhm.
is in some way reflected by, or the choice you make is reflected by the kind of life you end up
I
having.
totally agree. And there was a movie on Netflix, and I wish I could remember the name. I'll get it to you next time. But there was a movie on Netflix about this man back in the day. Um, he wanted to play the guitar and he sucked. And they say he went away and he learned to play the
Muddy
guitar.
Waters, Muddy
Everything, Muddy
Waters.
Water.
And he
Yeah,
was at the crossroads and he
that's
became the
right.
best. His name was, was his name, I don't know if his name was Robert Johnson at first, but I know he became Muddy
Muddy
Water.
Waters.
And they
Yes.
say that he made a deal with the devil. They say the
Mhm.
same thing about
Oh yeah,
Bob Dylan. Did
Bob
you
Dylan.
see that time that he was interviewed?
Oh yeah, I love Bob Dylan. I
And they
watched.
asked him, why do you keep doing this? Why he was old? Why do you, he said, because of the big boss. He
Because
said, I made a deal. I mean, you know,
who's the boss? He said, who you know
you
who he is.
saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said, you
Yeah.
know
He said, you know, the one on something about this world and others.
this world and the next.
Hmm.
And the next to me meant whatever world the next was in.
I thought he said this world and others, but whatever it was something more than the entities here on
Yeah,
this
yeah,
planet, is what he was saying
I
right now.
believe that. I totally in my heart believe that. You know what I'm saying? I believe it and I'm always believe it. And now that we're getting towards, and I'm not some old fogey who's a conspiracy theorist, I'm telling you, I believe we're
No,
in
I'm a
the
young, vibrant mother of two who
right,
believes in a lot of these so-called conspiracies. But
right.
see, I'm unapologetic about it. I
Mm-hmm,
believe what I believe, and I believe that people can disagree, and I'm
mm-hmm.
okay with that. But I'm not going to back down from the things. It's just common sense, some of it to me.
A lot of it is common sense, but and the reason why I guess I'm apologetic because I know that there can be people who use the conspiracy theorists to dismiss. You know, so
Right.
you're out here doing wrong, you're out here doing dirt, then you get caught, and now you're saying, "Oh, those are the conspiracy theorists, people trying to come after me." Da da da. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't want to fall in between that. I want to fall in between the people who are just seeking knowledge, but for something that you already felt. It was a feeling. It was nothing nobody needed to tell me. It was nothing that nobody needed to show me. I felt my whole life that everything that was lying that we couldn't see was going to come up for us to see. It was just no way I could look at this pyramid, no way I could look at all the literature that they left behind, and we can't decipher it. All of these years later, people have made up their own interpretations of it and said they. And now I believe that the people who want to know, and the people who were put here for it, are going to eventually have satisfaction and be like, okay, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I was among some
So
people
you
that
think these are the last days?
what my great grandmother would say. She lived in her 90s. I want to say 99. She said it. My grandmother, who also lived in late 70s, and grandfather in his
But
80s,
do
they
you
said it.
think, because the things that you are saying lead me to believe that you sort of think that these are the last days. Would that
Well,
be
I think
correct or
when
no?
they were saying it, that was preparation. They were preparing us for the last days. I think they said it because they knew the times were changing. They were seeing things that they had never seen in their lifetime. But in our lifetime, you can't go nowhere else. You come on. Oh, so you say, well, come on, Tor, we still haven't done the spaceships yet, or we still haven't, went to other planets and shopped on their malls yet. We haven't. It's so much more in life that we can do. I didn't say that. I just said that how much further can we push this envelope at the point of where, and I'm not dumping on Little Nas at all, because like I said, we had Madonna and that was my girl. But all I'm saying to you is what is going to be acceptable next for us to
And
move forward in this future.
what I'm going to say is with I'm not going to say all that.
Mhm.
What I'm going to say is that with everything that they're doing, because Lil Nas X is just one little piece,
Right, right.
what kinds of forces and entities are being unleashed, and what are we opening ourselves up to? Because things were off limits for a reason. And when you push through those boundaries,
Mhm.
who knows what you're going to get? And
So
that even goes to the Egyptian thing. Who
yeah,
knows what you're going to get, because nothing is sacred anymore.
if you cloned a goat and a sheep, did you clone something else? Did you clone a human? Did you, and if you did clone a human, does it come back with a soul? Like I just want to know certain things and see how far we can go with pushing this envelope. If this is
Well,
if
I
this is
want to question, do we want to push it that far?
that's my
I am
question.
perfectly fine with saying these are the limits, and when we get here, we'll go right up to here, and then we're not going any further.
Okay, so if you have people on earth who don't think like you and I, and you have people on earth to be like, are you crazy? It's
And we're
so
going to get what we're going to get, because they're out here doing everything. They have, oh man, I just don't want to get into all that stuff. There are all kinds of things that they are doing on this earth to open portals, smashing atoms together, just doing all kinds of things. And we're going to get what we get because, well, they're going to get what they get. And we'll see whether and to what extent it affects all of us, because it's exactly what you're saying. There are tons of people on this earth who don't think like I think, and they are doing whatever it is that comes into their mind to do, and there will be consequences.
and I
And
and
there
I
may be for all of us, it may just be for them. It may hit them one way and hit us differently.
Mhm.
I'm here for what I'm here for. You know what
Right.
I mean?
And the reason why I say this because the brain can think of anything. Like I said, the brain can think of it, it can be conceived any day of the week. So when you watch the movie, when I watched the movie Narnia when I was younger, my mind could go through that wardrobe and go to another world on the outside. And I say that metaphorically because when I grew up and I saw the movie Pandora, made me think, how did somebody mind think of something about two souls able to connect from other world like that? That blew my mind.
Portals. There are many movies talking about portals to other dimensions and
Egg, eggs,
portals here and
dimensions.
stuff like that.
That is real. That is actually real. So of course, that makes you think. If one person thought of that, that's over here, and another person thought of the same exact thing, but just couldn't create it over there. That's another aspect of it. And then I saw this movie called, I think it's called Behind Her Eyes, where these people, it's almost like sleep apnea. When you go to sleep, your body's heavy, but you feel like your soul is outside of your body, and you can see it, you feel it, but they call it sleep apnea. A lot of my grandparents used to always say your soul left your body, while you were asleep. So
Oh, some people do say that, and they astral travel and all
yeah,
that sort of
and
stuff.
I have always done it. Like my whole life, I've always done it. And then I created children who it happened to them. And they were like, Mom, have you ever had? And I was like, yeah, I tell you that all the time. They're like, oh my God, it happened to me. I couldn't even move. I saw myself laying there and I could hear everything, but I couldn't move. And I'm like, yeah, just control it. Don't stay too long on the other side. Just control it. So if we
Okay, I think we gotta have another conversation, because you are hitting some really heavy topics, and I
oh yeah, and
and
this
we've
is
been
what
on
I
here
meant
a
about.
while, and I don't want to just brush through it. I want to
Oh
hear
no,
more,
we
because
will
now
definitely
I want to start saying, what kind of things are you talking about? So can we talk about that next time, about
absolutely because it
going
definitely
to
is.
other dimensions? Is
Mhm.
that what we're talking about? Going to other dimensions through sleep?
Well, it's called. It's another word for it too, but it's more of a scientific word. But because of this movie, it made me know that I wasn't the only person that could
Well,
do
I
it.
know that there are
Mhm.
conscious people who specifically set out to astral travel,
Oh
which
yeah.
involves leaving your
Mhm.
body and going somewhere else. I don't
Mhm.
know if they're trying to do it in another dimension or on this dimension, but I would love to talk about, you're talking about not some theory or something like that. You're talking about something that actually happens to you and to your children.
Mhm. And it's
And
crazy
that's a
because
whole nother level.
I asked well, it was my best friend was the one that told me about the movie, and it's because she's known that I've told her, about that since I was younger. But the movie takes us further to a place that I didn't even know. And this is what I mean by the pharaohs. In the movie, when they travel, the spirit travels outside. They swap bodies. Like one spirit goes into the other body,
Oh, like the movies, Freaky Friday and
and
all
so,
that.
but this one's really deep. So if you, it's a really good movie.
What's the name of the movie?
Behind her eyes,
And
really
is it
good.
on Netflix or
It is on
Prime
Netflix.
or something like that?
It's on Netflix,
If
and
I
I'm so
have time,
glad that I watched it because I watch things for different reasons. I watched it because once I finished, I just knew it was too much. This person who wrote the movie knew about certain things that either you, if you done it or you heard somebody who's done it and you believed them. It's no way you could have made a movie just thinking like
just
a
making that up. Just
yeah,
making that up.
yeah, not yeah, Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, certain things you can sit around and just make up and it can be beautiful and your mind can go there. But this was different. This was you had to know.
Okay, so let me try to watch it and before our next episode, and then I'll be a little more aware of what we're talking about, and then we can maybe have a discussion of that
And then I'm
and
gonna
bring
bring
it.
it
We can
full
definitely bring it into parenting because you and your children have experienced it, so
circle.
it's really relevant.
But then we're gonna bring it into full circle with the pharaohs and
Okay.
the world is today. And I have it written down so that because what I was thinking is so broad, but I guess I shouldn't be saying the pharaohs, but what I'm thinking about the leadership we have today. If they were capable of knowing this type of knowledge back in the day, who says that that didn't happen back in the day?
Right. Okay. We're going to bring it around to leadership.
Hmm.
All right, so we've got a lot on our plate for next time, and I need to try to find and watch a movie a couple hours,
Hmm.
before next time. And so I guess we'll end it here. And thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us again for our next episode.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye bye.